An Apple Unremembered by jhontor. The girl came through the drain while the dead were counting flowers. Sage Othmara heard stone grit, wet cloth, a child's elbow against iron. Then a whisper, small enough for a rat. "Please, please." She stood beneath the apple tree with a pruning knife and silver basket. Around her, the west garden of the ossified court kept its old manners. Pears and white roses warmed by catacomb heat, a bone servant counting blossoms into a ledger. The garden had been planted on Tyrian soil after the Great Rift reopened the lost void gates. Lord Karos called it a foothold. No one in the fortress had tasted fruit in 700 years. The girl wriggled out and lay panting, half in the garden and half in the wall. Thin, sun-browned, patched tunic, mud on one cheek. A sack dragged behind her like a bad idea. She stared at Othmara's carved skull and gold eye sockets. "Are you going to kill me?" The law said yes. After a hearing, Lord Karos would say yes without one. The ledger would say 3 apples had gone missing last week, 2 figs before that. Less a crime than a trend. "No," Othmara said. That did not comfort her. Othmara nodded to the tree. "You came for the apples." The girl's eyes jumped to the branches. "My brother has the cough." "So does half the village." "His has blood in it." Othmara lowered the pruning knife, and the girl flinched. "Take 2. 1 for your brother. 1 for whoever says she is not hungry and then eats half of his." The girl blinked. "That's my mother, usually." She rose slowly, ready to bolt if kindness showed teeth. Before touching the fruit, she wiped her hand on her tunic. That stopped Othmara. The hand was still filthy. The apple would go into a sack smelling of damp grain and be eaten in a room where smoke lived in the rafters. Still, the child cleaned her hand first. The apple came loose with a soft twist, and something moved in Othmara's memory. She had eaten an apple once. The fact rose whole and useless. The year, the last summer before the green plain went quiet. The place, northern slope, second terrace, yellow grass. The woman, Maris, in blue sleeves, laughing because Othmara had pretended not to watch her. The apple had been green, it had been sour. Othmara knew these things the way a ledger knew debt. The girl tucked the second apple into the sack. "Do you eat them?" "No." "Then why grow them?" Children asked questions like knives were free. Othmara looked toward the fortress, built interior by people who had removed sleep from their lives and then designed bedrooms out of habit. "We remember having wanted them." The girl frowned. "That's stupid." Othmara should have called a guard. The ossified court survived because of rules. They had obeyed every rule when the plague god's servant crossed their plane. Burn the orchards, salt the rivers, seal the cities, step out of flesh before the rot can take you. They had lived. That had been the trouble. The girl reached for a 3rd apple, then stopped herself. "You said 2. She lowered her hand, and Othmara hated that more than the theft. "Take 3. The girl did not wait. This one was red over gold, bruised where a bird had tested it and lost interest. She rubbed it on her tunic. Othmara searched again, skin breaking under teeth, pressure, crack, wetness, the small violence of eating. She could diagram it. She could write a paper on it and bore 3 chords into surrender. She could not remember the taste. Not sour, not sweet, not juice on the thumb, not the core thrown into the grass. Maris had laughed. Why? "That lady," the girl said. Othmara. Oh, I'm Len. Len looked from the apple to Othmara's mouth. Can you? No. Not even a little? No. Len held the apple out. You can try. A child's answer to an old impossibility. Othmara took it. It had weight. Weight remained. Texture remained, in a poor mechanical way. Smooth skin, warmth, the soft bruise near the base. The bite was easy. That was the cruelty of it. The apple split. Juice ran over her teeth, down the ivory of her chin into her robe. Her skull filled with information. Acidity, fructose, water, seed, tannin, soil trace, a little copper from the child's hand. Nothing else. No taste, no door opening onto merries and blue sleeves and yellow grass. Just a damaged apple in the hand of a woman who had outlived hunger. Len's face changed. Oh, she said. Othmara lured the fruit. There were kind things to say. She had read most of them. Go home. Len backed away. At the drain she stopped. Thank you. Othmara did not answer. By afternoon, Lord Caros stood in the garden, tapping the pipe with his cane. Spikes, he said. Inside the bend, small ones. For rats? Othmara asked. For whatever comes through. For Tyrians, then. Othmara placed the bitten apple in the ledger basket. Make them large. If the court is frightened of children, let us not be subtle. Lord Caros stared at her. He had no eyelids, but managed offence beautifully. The next morning there was an apple on the west wall. Not one of theirs. Green, freckled with brown. It had grown in bad soil, without permission from any gardener. Othmara found it during inspection. She did not pick it up. The apple stayed through rain, heat, and another dawn. A wasp found the bruise. On the 5th day, it split. Ants came up the wall and entered. Othmara watched until the apple was gone.